This meeting is being recorded by the Charter Review Committee. If any other persons present are doing the same, you must notify the chairperson at this time. Anyone else? Okay, thanks. Roll call. Sheila.
Here.
Chris.
Here.
Otis.
Here.
Aaron.
Here.
David. Here. Alan.
Here.
And John Lund has expressed that he will not be attending this meeting, but he did send me a follow-up email. So, let me bring you up to speed about where I've been at for the last 2 weeks. And you see the evidence of that. So I took all the notes that I had, both in this, the charter in front of me with notes on it about things that we would discuss, and then the notes I took at all the meetings. And I came up with a system of, if I could take the charter in Word and divide important pages so that if I were reading it, I would see highlighted some notation to go read the footnote. And I did that throughout the charter. And I tried to summarize what I had as best I could. I edited it several times. I've since read it, and it probably deserves more editing. But so my questions to you are one at a time. You know, what do you think of it? What do you think we should do tonight? Oh, well, I'll say one more thing. I know that there were parts of our discussion that we said we would come back to, and I'm very happy to do that. I personally don't need to come back to anything, but there may be others that feel that they've written down somewhere where they do. So I'm happy to go through the charter tonight again and highlight and discuss some things that that you may think that we should go back and talk about again. But anyway, I'd just like to have your input, your thoughts about this process, and just generally what you thought. Was that breathtaking? Chris.
Okay. It's monumental work, David, so thank you very much for being willing to do that. The changes that you incorporated to send back out to council, I think it points out some of the things that we as a committee have ironed out and are pretty much on board. I do think there are areas that we really need to revisit. I know that I've got one in particular, of course I do, that needs to be revisited. So I'm hoping that after tonight's meeting, we're not presenting a final draft to the council.
Yeah, my intention, just so you all understand my intention, I thought if I did this, it would alleviate a much longer process of getting this stuff collected into a place where we can talk about it. My goal isn't to push what I think through and or give this or present this to the council at any date other than when we're all ready. But I thought that because of how much we had spoken about it, might have been a good idea just to do this so that when we looked at it, we had a reference point for further discussion. So to answer your question, it's up to all of us when we want to bring it to the committee, to the council. And so I'm not, I have no other agenda than that. So what would you like to revisit, Chris?
Public safety.
Okay.
I had a conversation with a member of the Public Safety Commission who, it was quite a long conversation. It was my understanding that he was going to send along recommendations in writing. So I'm wondering, David, if you've seen some of those?
No.
Okay, well, I have some notes written down. If you want to attack it tonight, I can, or I can consolidate it into a memo or a document of some sort so everybody can look at it, or we can just go right over it again. Okay.
Here's a process answer to that.
Thank you.
I want to hear everybody tell me what they think, and if they also have places they want to revisit, and then I'm making a list. So I noted you and others what they have to say. And then as a result of that, we can talk about if we want to tackle things tonight and how we want to do it. So that would work. I think that would be a good way of doing it. So I just want to hear from others what their impressions were. So who wants to jump in next? Alan?
Yes, I mean, the draft report, in our discussions, I understand that there would be a few attachments for the longer additions that we have not seen as of yet. So, I don't know whether those, I don't know whether I want to discuss those or not because I haven't seen that. And so I was trying to figure out when we might get those and review them to know if we wanted to revisit them.
Well, everything that is an attachment, I believe, is something that's either been emailed to us or we've worked on, except maybe for the Central Maintenance Committee report, which I'm still looking for. But so I didn't put the attachments in because I thought it was going to be a pretty big burden just for everybody just to read what I had written.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that after this meeting, based on how we went, I'd certainly be happy to by next couple of days to send you the attachments. That's not a problem. But everything that was an attachment was something that, like, for example, Alan, in section 7 were the things that you had sent me. Otis sent me something for the task force on domestic violence. So there are things that the attachments are things we have all seen that I'm just throwing in there so that and statutory references so that the council doesn't have to look all that up again and they can cross-reference an appendix. But yes, I agree. I think that's important. Of course that's important, but it was hard work just to get this stuff summarized. I just wanted to give that to you thinking that was a lot. Okay, I can do that. That's a promise. Anybody else? Or you got more, Alan? You're good? Okay. Next, Erin? You're next on my screen.
Sure. I mean, I guess from a process standpoint, I do think there are some areas where I still have a few edits, at least in my sections. Like I had an edit to the school committee section that John and I had worked on a little bit to clarify some language there. And in addition, Sheila, Alan, and I agreed upon some language for that Public Safety Commission addition. So I don't know what we do with those things, if we just submit them to the committee or if we take your document and do some track changes. And so there are things like that. I also am still unclear about the ranked choice voting and whether the committee did decide to give pro and cons. I see that in the document, which I know I expressed at the last meeting or 2 meetings ago that I didn't think that was what we should do. But if the rest of the committee, if it was of the mind of the rest of the committee that is what we should do, then, and I'm an outlier on that, then that is what it is. I just don't recall there being agreement or a vote or anything on that. So, those are my thoughts as of right now. Okay. And to be honest, I didn't have a ton of time to give this a huge look. I did my best in the last couple days, but I could do a better job of reading it over and making notes on your draft that you have. But I didn't have a ton of time in the last 2 days.
Okay. Thank you. Let me just respond. Yes, I would be grateful. I sent it to you in Word. So I'd be grateful if you wanted to redline the draft. You know, if a sentence isn't your perfect way of saying something, maybe don't edit it. But if there's something really substantive missing, then yes, please make it work. So I did the best I could with what I had, Erin, from the school committee stuff that you and John gave me, and I'm grateful that you read it close enough to know that there is a difference. So please add the things that you think are important, so that we can then, once everybody sends me back edited drafts, we could then have a stronger substantive conversation about the different things that we all see as being wanting to be in there. Did you say something about public safety? No, you didn't say anything about public safety, Erin, did you?
Alan and Sheila and I have language that we were going to submit.
Now, I want you to know that I haven't heard from you, so that's a book. That to me is a bookmark. So that doesn't have to be the language, but it was an example of that we discussed, that some general statement that, so yes, that's fine. I'm glad.
Yeah, I did see that you had put something there, but we just have the specific language we can send.
Right. Okay, perfect. I'll call it like there's a bookmark. Okay. Now the last thing, let me tell you what I did, because I did pay very much attention to your concerns about the pros and cons. I don't know if I agree exactly with where you are with it, but that doesn't matter because I'm willing to find a place where we can all do it the way that we think it's important to do. All I was doing was putting in, if I was going to give you like when you get a referendum ballot, sometimes they'll tell you the pros and the cons of why you should vote for it. That's what I was doing. So let's say one person had brought up the pro and 6 people had brought up the con. I wasn't doing it as we think that it shouldn't happen because 6 of us voted no and 1 of us voted yes. I was putting it in to say, as you think about it, and again, if somebody wants to edit that to make it clearer, as you council think about it, here are the things we noticed that are clearly the pros and the cons. I think anybody even reading literature about it would probably be the same thing. So, but no, I didn't, it wasn't a vote. It was more of our duty to observe for everybody what we thought about that moving forward. So my intention was neutral, by the way. There's enough going on out there that I assure you that no matter how we vote, it will make zero difference on what happens next. There's a lot of momentum out there around this issue, and I think it's better for us to just give the council guidance on what they should expect from the public as far as what they're going to start to see. So we're giving a recommended language just so you can see what the language looks like. Oh, I know what I didn't attach. I agree. The Amherst, it's really big. It's another footnote. I'm sorry to digress, but I was wrong. In order for us to change to RCV, we have to form a charter commission. And so that's what Amherst did, and they gave a report. And Alan and I have been talking about the fact that we have these multiple candidate elections. I think we had talked about it at the last meeting, 2 at large, 2 school committee, 3 school committee. Amherst has the same thing, and they devised the formula for it. So work has been done. So I should send that out. I think that might be interesting for people to see how they did it. But we're going to need to have a commission. It's not going to be up to the council. The council help that along, but we're going to need a commission. It's absolute by statute. We need to do that. So if people want that to be on the referendum in November, then it's going to have to be a priority to get things moving along so it could get to the ballot.
So anyway, David, how do you form a commission?
I can't say that I know enough unless I saw the statute in front of me, but I think it's the home rule statute talks about the fact that the mayor and the council can agree on certain things except for how we vote.
Okay.
And you have to form a commission. And I wonder, because last time we did a commission, had to be elected. So that whole process took 1 year of an election for the commission, a year of commission work, and then the charter came up at the next election. So it took a year to get the commission then circling around to the next vote. So that's something that people should do their homework on, or maybe the mayor will get a legal opinion on it. But anyway, so Sheila, I got you. What are your comments? If any.
So I was looking. I didn't read everything. I had some of the same concerns that Aaron did. I want to go through and make sure there's nothing on my notes that is missing from what you put in there. But I do like the format where there's some asterisks and it's, your attention is drawn to it in yellow text. So that's really helpful. So I'm going to bounce it off of my notes and see if there's anything that I think might be missing. But, I was kind of glancing at it during my lunch break today, and it looks like everything is good so far, as I can tell.
Thanks. Okay. Otis?
I don't know if this went out before this morning, but I didn't receive it till Tammy's email this morning, and I was at work. So I looked it over. It's a ton of work. Thank you for all the work, David, because it always goes faster when one person takes charge. There was definitely, I have sort of quibbles here and there, mainly about things where it says, it was suggested, and it's unclear to me, whether there was consensus or even necessarily more than one or two, more than a minority opinion around an issue. But I see where you're going with it, and it was very thorough. But there were definitely some areas where I thought we might be able to do a little bit more work. As an example off the top of my head, the piece that says that there's a lack of clarity around whether the mayor or the council oversees the city clerk, and the recommendation suggests that should be codified in the charter, but without giving an example of how it might be. That to me is just the type of work that this committee can do a better job and is set up to do a better job on than council, because we are kind of able to give more time to these issues. That said, we've been at this a year, and I'm not suggesting that we make it go on forever, but those are my initial thoughts.
Okay, thank you. Actually, I want to tell you that there's some things I put in there to provoke you. Not to provoke you to get angry, but to provoke you to say, that doesn't sound like we've really completed our job, or, it was like, if you want to leave it at this, fine. If you don't want to leave it at this, then let's not. But I had to put something in, and my notes definitely said that that's where for example, your example, Otis, was where we ended up. Just, Chris, I promise. We have not been doing this for a year. We've only been doing this since June. This is a lot of work. So what I'm hoping is this. If your impression was that I was rushing us along, that is totally false. So let's put that off the table. Number two, to codify this the way I did, I think gives you the ability you're further down the road with it. So I brought us further down the road. I felt comfortable doing it. I had written the original charter. I felt comfortable at least identifying stuff. Again, I am not trying to divert attention from anything that you all feel is important. It's just a way to give, at minimum, we have a document that we could work with. Start with that. So I'm happy if we make this meeting, maybe we can go back to Chris's discussion about the Public Safety Commission. Maybe we want to talk about this or that. But I don't mind if we send out to each other red lines of things, and of course, let me see it. And I will again do the heavy lifting and organize the next meeting around your concerns. Okay? So that's how I visualized it. You just sit there on your computer and you say, okay, now it's my turn to do this. Send it out to everybody. I'll see it, like I said, and I'll lead the discussion next time about, and we can like whatever, whether we voted, whatever the issue is. And you could even say in it, this is how I'd like to see, this is why I'd like to have it discussed next meeting. And that's fine. Okay. So that's the whole reason I did this. This is nothing other than that about this. Okay. Alan, and I'm sorry, Chris.
Yeah, my thought is I know it takes a lot of time and effort, but I believe that we should all go through your draft, make notes about which areas we feel need either further discussion, further clarity, need suggestions, whatever. And if it's something that an individual can write up and make a proposal, then do that. But in my mind, there's a lot of the report which I think is probably already accepted or acceptable to most people, so that if what we do is go through that draft report and make only specific notes about things we have questions about, then
That's right.
our process will be considerably pared down.
Great. Chris.
A few things. I wanted to add the rec department. I think we need to probably go back and take a look at that. And also the Board of License Commissioners. There seems to be, there's an intersection there with code and charter. So I think that that probably needs another look. The other question I had pertains to what I don't even know how to describe some of these groups, but there's more or less quasi. They're not listed in the charter, but they are. It is Greenfield. It's like, for instance, we have Greenfield Housing Authority. Do they belong in the charter? Is my question, or is that a mandate from the state? Or I realize like CDC probably stands along on a state mission, but I'm just, wondering some of these, I don't know, they're sort of satellites, I guess, to Greenfield government. Do we need to take a look at some of those and decide whether or not they should be in the charter?
Okay. I know from my own experience that the Greenfield Housing Authority, for example, is a body politic, they call it. So it's governed by state law.
Okay.
So it's like a nonprofit, but it's not really a nonprofit because it's a nonprofit set up by statute. So they have money specifically funneled into their agency for housing. CDC is a completely non-governmental, it's a nonprofit. The Council of Governments has their own universe. They're the remnants of county government. So that'll be fine. That would be fine.
Okay.
I think you're going to run into why these things aren't in there with those answers, but there could be something that has slipped by. But that's the answer to GHA. So you won't be able to do that in the charter. Okay, does that work? You want more? You have more? You just holding your hand up, or you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm drying my nails. No.
Let's see.
Again, this gets, again, I'm looking at this. We had this discussion back a while ago about whether we are the cleaning, if we're cleaning up the past or we're headed toward the future. And I'm not thinking that we can solve all these problems, but is there, for instance, are there pieces of our charter that are obsolete? Maybe they can be combined, like we talked about the central maintenance, and we're going to move that away. But are there different pieces and duties and responsibilities in this? This is what I envision. Once we get this into a document where we've got everything pretty well in its place, is there a broader piece for overview so that we can make sure that we don't have the conflict between some of the items in whose responsibility it is. The Board of Health being an example, for instance. Who's in charge? Who does what? Do we need a department under the mayor? Do we need a health board? Those kinds of things. So as we do our final review, can we also keep an eye to the idea that we don't want to see overlap or issues that may come up? I'm just suggesting.
So I saw this as three parts. There's the part I just did, which we're going to review and make better and talk some more if we need to. There's the attachments, which are important so that there's resources. And if other people have other resources, let me know. And the third thing was a summary that was more like the closest thing to an opinion that each of us could get to, I guess. And that I would say what we did, what we talked about, what we thought was important, maybe why we did certain things, why we didn't do certain things. Maybe we'd all join in the summary. Maybe other people, maybe some of you would want to write separately in the summary about your thoughts so that the counselors could see that there are definitely distinct opinions about things, and that's fine. That everybody kind of gets a chance, not just David's summary where you have to follow my lead. Again, I was planning on writing the summary because, I felt like just to get it started, but that's how I envisioned it. Was you guys we had an opinion that was joined by everybody. Parts of it were individualized. I might even go individualized if I thought something was really important. So if we're going to get down to that mode, I think it'd be really helpful. I looked at the committee report as I was thinking, if I'm a counselor and I have to open this thing up, and I want it to be a handy document for me as I'm going through this, how would it be handy? And if I read this, so if I'm a counselor, I read the summary, or anybody in town, I read the summary, that gives me the story. Now I look at the committee report, and that's the weeds. That's the nitty gritty. That's where the stuff is. And shouldn't we give the council a running start, or even the public a running start, to understand how they could get stuff changed? But just to go back to what you said, Chris, in the summary, I was thinking that we'd introduce the report by talking about the broad focus that we had about the past and the future. And those two things that I had outlined that we all felt like we agreed was the way that we were kind of grounding ourselves. And also to the notion that Sheila had brought up about, some of these provisions need to be very tight so that, we know that they're not going to necessarily be open to challenge. And other things might be open, which would be a signal to the council that the charter would like to see this written more specifically by ordinance. So that it's like, I mean, I'd have to give you examples, but I saw that, but I'm talking about what Sheila suggested. I saw that as I was going through it. For example, section 7 to me felt like this has to be tight because we don't want this litigated for lack of clarity.
Right.
But maybe the Board of Health section might be something general, and then it would force the council to legislate a ordinance around the Board of Health. So that's how I was thinking were the three. Again, if anybody thinks there's more, that's what I heard and looking through my notes was the past is important, and what do we want to do to keep the consistency of the charter? The future is important because now we're taking now we got 20 years under our belt, 18 years under our belt, and we can see maybe over the horizon a little bit better, what does the future bring? How can this charter be changed? Again, the health department rather than a Board of Health might be one of those futuristic things as an example. I mean, and then the last thing is, do we need to do anything more? Is this a tight section or a general section? And so, so that would be like how I would introduce the summary. So this is how we looked at it. This is maybe how you may want to look at it. And then go into more detail, section 1, section 5, section 7, section whatever. So this is not the summary. This is the this is the place that you go to remind yourself, what you should be doing if you think this section of the charter is something you want to deal with. The summary is the bigger philosophical, maybe a bigger, broader thing. Alan?
Yeah, I would only suggest the possibility that of writing a summary, and then at the same time, when the process is all complete, if any individual member has either something to add, something to object to, something to emphasize, that summary would allow individual statements just to report what individuals thought that may not be completely reflected in the summary.
That's how I envisioned it.
Mm-hmm.
Same as now. Yes, that's how I envisioned it. So is tonight a night that we want to just leave it at that and use the next month to, again, we could jump ahead to public safety, but maybe that's not the way to do it. Maybe that kind of, I don't care. But I felt like giving you this enough ahead of time that you could get a sense of it. I thought this meeting would be a good time to figure out now. So what do people think? Are there things that we could use the time for to talk about, or do you want to digest this plus this meeting discussion, and let's make a strong agenda for the next meeting? Mm-hmm. And I want to say this. You all have to really read this stuff so that we are all on the same page. I tried to get you as much ahead of time, but if it didn't work, that's fine. But the next 2 weeks, when we get to the next meeting, it's really important for everybody to have read it and to be able to get a chance to. I really want you all to. I want us all to participate in this. By the way, that's really. I have my strong feelings, but it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean it's just one person. Yes.
Yeah, I just I would see a basis for strong discussion would be that each member look at the draft report very carefully, as carefully as we have time, and highlight or make notes on what we see as problems, omissions, need for clarity, or whatever, and have those specific notes for the next meeting. Because at this point, it's all a little vague for us without studying that that draft report and also the attachments that are needed to go along with it.
Okay. Yeah, Sheila.
I'm wondering, at what point do you think we're going to pass this on to the city council? Because I know we are. I know it's only the middle of January, but budget season is going to be upon us before you know it, and I want to make sure that and I can see that President Ricketts is on the line, so I don't know if she wants to weigh in on this, but I know that the council is going to want to pay very close attention to what's going on with the recommendations of the Charter Committee, but we're also going to need to pay very close attention to what's going on with the budget. So I'm wondering if we can't get it up in the next couple of weeks, I wonder if that gives us a couple extra months to really flesh out those things that might need some more attention, and then just plan on setting it in June instead of April, with the budget in May, I should say.
My response to that. Okay, so here's my response as what I think the charges of the committee. The charges of the committee, without you as counselors telling us differently, okay, to get this done as soon as possible and get it to the council. We should have had it by the end of December, but we didn't start till June, so that would have been impossible. So I would think this: if you want it to be fair to us, a year doing this would be fair. So if we got this to the council by June and no later, nobody could say that we didn't do our work. But if the council feels like the ranked choice voting or some other part of this should get to them sooner than later, then I was thinking we would try to get this to the council by the end of February, and then you'd have March, at least even 1 month to look at it and send some priorities off to committees to work on while the Ways and Means started to gear up for budget. I'll leave it up. I'll leave it up to, I see President Ricketts, if you want to speak, please let me know. You don't have to speak today, but I did this so that we could go either way. We could either go quickly because we're going to have 2 weeks now, and then we're going to kick some butt at the next meeting and iron it all out. Or as a result, and again, I'm saying this, or as a result, we see that we haven't gone deep enough.
Okay.
We should go deeper. And maybe not in everything, but clearly there are things where we should go deeper. And if that's the case, and then we will provide the report to the council when you're done with your budget, or sometime before that, but clearly knowing that you're not going to deal with it until after the budget. And it would be a more comprehensive report, I think. I think there are things we might be able to do for the council that we can't do by the end of February if we're going to do that. So having said that, I want to, by the way, Madam President and Madam Vice President, congratulations. And hear from President Ricketts, please. You're on mute though, Penny, if I may call you so.
Yes. All right. I'll just speak for a second. You do you. I think you guys just continue doing what you're doing. Because I don't know if you know this is happening at the appointments and ordinances, but we're looking at every city ordinance as well right now as appointments and ordinances. So we have all that going on at the same time this Charter Commission is happening. So just by what I'm hearing tonight, it sounds like a deep dive is coming for some of these issues. And I'm just intrigued. I'm in awe of all the work you've done so far, Dave. I really just don't want it rushed, but I wasn't expecting you to say anything about needing a charter commission. I didn't know about that piece. So doesn't that put a wrench in what you're doing if you wanted to get it?
No, we're here so that we can combine the council and citizens.
Okay.
And have us be the ones to kind of look at it a little bit outside of those who have an inside look at it all the time. You deal with it day in and day out. We then come back to you with recommendations. Our recommendations have no power except that we did what the charter considers in Section 8 to be good work. Let's do this good work for the council. And if you think it's good work, you'll use it. And if you don't think it's good work, you won't. But the public will also be aware of this document. So the public can also say to the council, we know this document exists. We've read it. We think you all should be stimulated by this. You know what I mean? So it's not just a private memo. A charter commission is that in order to change how we vote, I think the law thinks that is outside of the purview of the 13 people and the mayor. That it has to, number one, it has to go to the voters, and two, it has to go to the voters with some sort of a study. But I'm saying that it could go quicker than that, and I'm not saying that I'm right now, but when I reread the statute in order to write out the provision in my draft, it's pretty clear that might be the case. So maybe at this point, I wish the mayor was on this, but maybe the mayor could be stimulated to get a legal opinion.
Right. That's, yep.
But in the meantime, that could happen quickly. But I would say this, based on what we're saying, if why don't we meet in 2 weeks with the task that we've said we're going to do? And let's see, as a result of that meeting in 2 weeks, whether we feel like we're there or not. I personally am happy to dive deeper. Erin?
If we meet in 2 weeks, I would prefer that people could do their redlining and send that out by next week,
Yes.
so that then we had a week to read the work that everyone's done.
Okay.
If people don't feel like they can do that, then I would say we meet in 3 weeks. I mean, I feel like that's fine for me if I could have a week here to read through your document and redline it, submit that through Tammy to everyone by next Monday, and then we would meet the following Monday so that we had a week then to read what everyone had done, so we all come in informed for the next meeting. And I don't know exactly how it works, but from a personal standpoint, I'd prefer to try to get the work done and send it to the council, and as soon as we can. I'm happy to serve longer if we need to, but there's other things that I'm not doing because I'm doing this. So I'd prefer to get it done if we can, but I also don't want to do a disservice to the charter, and I want it. So I don't know if we can submit it to the council and if the council can come back to us, but I don't know if it can be like that or if it's like when we submit it, we're done.
And
I think, number one, first of all, President Ricketts, thank you very much. I didn't get a chance to thank you. Where'd Erin go? Oh, there you are. I think I would like to do it the way you're doing it, but I'm retired. So it's easy not easy, but I have the day to do this. So if people think we need 3 weeks, that's fine. I just know that our schedule in the world of Greenfield, the city of Greenfield, is these Mondays. So I can say in 2 weeks, we'll have a meeting. That's why I wanted to do it that way. Sheila?
David, I actually have a conflict in 2 weeks and I'm chairing that meeting, so I can't miss it.
Okay. And let's see if we can go out to another date. So let's start with this. The date's easy enough. Is everybody agreeable, which I'm encouraging and endorsing, that within the next, if we're 3 weeks out, over the next week or so, please, you'll get, that we send out redlining to each other through Tammy so that we can see what everybody's up to. We're not allowed to communicate with each other through this email, by the way. We can just, and then I will try to create an agenda around it and let you all see what that agenda is. And as a result of, I think to help along with whether we should dig deeper and longer or not, let's all look at that question about should we dig deeper or not. So when you make your comments, you might just say, just dig deeper. You know what I mean? Just we understand what we're saying to each other. Or, yeah, I think we've beaten the horse here. Let's send it off to the council to figure out. Okay? Especially counselors, because I think for me, some of the things I wanted to defer to the council, and but maybe I'll get a counselor's point of view on that. And so does that work? Alan, Erin, Sheila, yes, Otis, Chris. Okay, and I'll let John know. So let's try to meet then on February the 1st. That's not council, President Ricketts, that's not the council chairs meeting, is it? Is it the first Monday, chairs?
Well, chairs is on February 2nd.
Great, okay. Can everybody make it at 5:30?
I can. Is there anyone who can't?
All right, so we're going to have, red line in between, rehash charter. Great.
And the citizens petition is in here, right? That's like
Yes.
very important that I hope it comes to us sooner than later, because I feel like that piece I really would like.
Yes, I
Okay.
understand that. And I was sensitive to that in thinking about getting you. There's two things that I was thinking of in a sensitivity way to the council. One is if ranked choice voting needs a commission, and the council has to participate in that, you might as well get that started. If you want to get something on the ballot for November, if that seems ridiculous, then you don't have to do it. You'll get a commission set up that could use the year to do it. And you'll put it, the problem is, oh, no problem. You'll have the federal elections. It'll come up as a ballot question. So that's
Mhm.
what happen.
All right.
The other is what President Ricketts is saying is that, I mean, I have to say that if the three words are added to section 7.8, the issue is the 7.8 reads, makes sense. It's just the percentages are low. So if the council feels that they want to increase the percentages and they want to get to that sooner, and by the way, you don't need us to give you the report to do that. You are not stopped from doing that. So if you want to preliminarily set yourselves up for that, like in March, we'll talk about it or whatever. But go ahead, Otis. I mean, but yes, that would be probably be helpful to the council.
I just wanted to clarify for anyone who doesn't realize that those three words were added. They were signed by Governor Baker in the November, I think. So it's really just the percentages that need to be looked at.
So Penny, just so you know, I think we think that the language is clear, but I think the question is, and I think I outlined that, and you'll see my outline. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of feedback from that. But just the idea of why we want to have less people, why we want to have more people. And you could, again, if you want to start preparing for that discussion, you can start. However, if you want to bring it up at committee chairs on the first in February, you could tell the counselors that this is what you think is coming down the pike sooner than later. But I don't think the committee's report. Well, okay. I've said enough. So
okay, I get that. No, I thank you for that. And Councilor Wheeler, I think, is the one who, if he'd like to get the ranked choice voting going quicker, he would be the one to like let me know or let council know so we can act accordingly. Because I think that was you authored that, right, to bring it forward?
No, I think Councilor Dolan's the one who's passionate about that issue.
Okay, thank you.
But we need a legal opinion, though, about that's the first thing you should do is get city council, the mayor's town lawyer to form an opinion about what you need to do next, right away, even before as we're doing this.
Do you have any other things? Like, should we be putting together some kind of a list that we want legal counsel on so we don't keep going back? I mean, we got to pay at the end no matter what, but do you think there's a way to submit?
I see what you're saying. I think you may want to submit this report. You may want to share this report with your city councilor, with a lawyer for the city after we vote to approve it, just so that your lawyer has it available. But the commission is just something that's so time sensitive, you might as well get the answer. There's nothing else time sensitive that I know of, unless somebody else is missing something. But that's the most time sensitive thing that I can think of.
Perfect. Thank you.
By the way, Kenny, and I know it's not the easiest thing to read, you were sent a copy for your own review. So please feel free to open it and read it and ask any questions that you wish to ask at the next meeting. Actually, yeah, I did not send it to the whole council. I sent it to you as the chair, and I sent it to the mayor. If you want to share it with other councilors, the council, that's fine. But it is the first draft, so I don't want to confuse people. Like, that's not actually the best way to go about doing business. So we're all set? We're good? We're owed time from the last meeting, by the way. So we're still averaging 2 hours based on the last 3-hour meeting. So, okay. If we're not going to talk about anything else and we've come to agreement, Councilor DeSorger, do you want to say anything? Okay. Let's have a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Wait, I think Councilor DeSorger wants to say something. She just came up.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that that housing authority, that actually is mentioned in the Springfield Charter and some of the other codes. So I think that might be something to think about. I haven't gotten through all of the cities, but that's all. And thank you so much for all of your hard work on this. It's unbelievable. I'm very grateful. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks, Ginny. That was a good, that's good. I wonder why that's the case. Again, Springfield's a bigger city, so they're going to be more, they have a health department, for example, so. Okay, but thank you very much. That's a good point. Actually, Ginny, if you want to do some homework, can you get me a contact for the Board of Health, for Board of Health information on the state level to find out who the health director reports to? Does the health director report to the mayor? Does the health director report, what under a Board of Health system, does the health director report to the Board of Health? And the underlying question would be, is that something by law or is it something that the city does by ordinance under home rule? So if it's home rule, we can decide. If it's state law, then we may not be following the state law, which is what Glenn Ayers is saying. And I have yet to find a state law that says under a Board of Health system where the health director, who's the boss of the health director. Under our charter, if there's no state law, the health director is clearly under the guidance of the mayor. And the Board of Health could use that person or hire their own agent if they want, sort of to add to the Board of Health, have a fourth person. But I understand we have a health director. So that would be good homework because I can't, I looked up the statutes, I looked up our ordinances, I did not look up the regulations, but I looked up on these treatises that were out there and it basically said there's a gap, there's a home rule gap in how you organize with your Board of Health. So if that's the answer, then it would be up to the council. I mean, we could do it by charter, but in the first instance, you could do it by council. You wouldn't have to go through the BS that, going through the legislature and that kind of thing. So thank you, Ginny. Okay, can I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Otis.
Second, Sword.
All right. Sheila, what do you say about that? Nothing? Not are you?
What's that?
We made a motion to adjourn. What do you say to that? Aye, nay?
Yes, aye. Sorry,
Chris.
my son is having a disaster in the kitchen.
All right, well, you can go now because you gave your vote.
All right, bye, folks.
Aye.
Otis,
Aye.
Aaron,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
David, and John's not here. Thank you all again for all you do.